All right. Well, let's talk about a different kind of drug, and that is alcohol and lockout laws.
Yep.
My assessment in Wollongong is it's been a reasonable experiment and a partnership between the licensed premises and the police and the community. We haven't had to put in those very serious lockout laws as they have in Sydney, which have migrated to Newcastle. There's an alcohol policy alliance, which reckons the evidence shows that every hour that you reduce opening hours, say between 5 and 4 or between 4 and 3 or whatever it is, hundreds of lives are saved. Considering that evidence, where do you stand on lockout laws in Sydney and further out in regions?
Just to clarify, hundreds of lives from what? Not these one-punch deaths. There are very, very few of them. And that was the motivation for the lockout laws in King's Cross.
Hundreds of incidences of violence. They're talking about incidents of violence.
All right. Well, I guess in a way, I suppose we're almost an advertisement for cannabis because people don't get into fights when they smoke dope. Only alcohol sets that off. But I guess the question comes down to how do we reduce alcohol-fueled violence? Is it best to treat people as a collective, as a group, and put restrictions on everyone, or is it better to deal with the individuals who are responsible for the violence? As a libertarian, as someone who doesn't believe in collectivism, I would argue for the latter. And King's Cross was actually going down that path before the lockouts were introduced. It sounds to me, I'm not totally up to speed on the Wollongong situation, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds to me like Wollongong is going down the path of identifying who are the troublemakers, who are the ones most likely to cause difficulty identifying who they are and restricting their access to alcohol, and then not imposing those same restrictions on everybody else. That I have no problem with. Identifying individuals responsible for crime, for terrorism, for violence, for antisocial behaviour, and dealing with those individuals on an individual basis is perfectly acceptable. Treating everybody as collectively guilty it's in principle no different from saying all Muslims are terrorists or all Sudanese immigrants are gang members. You know, it's a collective condemnation of people and treating them as a group rather than as individuals. The lockout laws in Sydney, I think they're an absolute travesty. They've absolutely killed Sydney as a nightlife centre, and it was so unnecessary. The venues in King's Cross were implementing the previous measures, which involved identification of the people coming in, banning of those that had got up to mischief and caused trouble, and letting everybody else enjoy themselves. They never gave that time to work, and I sincerely hope that they wake up to themselves and go back to doing something more sensible. Right. If you live in Melbourne, you don't have this silliness. You can stay out all night and have fun for as long as your body can cope with it. But in Sydney, you're too naughty to do that. You've got to go home to bed early.